At sunset, the enemy's line was formed in a very strong position, with their heads to the westward, flanks secured by shoals, and their line reaching into Aboukir Bay. As we advanced, the Admiral, in the Vanguard, made the signal to close. The Goliath and Zealous led in and most gallantly took their stations inside the enemy's line between their ships and the shore. They were followed by the Orion, Theseus, Audacious, and Leander, while the Admiral with the remainder of the squadron anchored on the outside of the enemy's line. Thus, the French were placed between two fires. At 6:30, the action commenced, and a furious cannonade was kept up on both sides. The Vanguard immediately anchored alongside the French Admiral's ship, L'Orient, of 120 guns, the pride of their fleet. The battle continued with the utmost vigour, the night illuminated by incessant fire, until about 10 o'clock, when the L'Orient blew up with an explosion so tremendous that the whole bay was shaken as if by an earthquake. The guns instantly ceased, a dreadful pause ensued, and all that remained of that mighty ship was a few blazing fragments, which fell into the sea. The silence lasted some minutes, when again the fire commenced with redoubled fury. The enemy fought with desperate bravery, but nothing could withstand the British attack. Before morning, nearly the whole of the French fleet had struck their colours, and Aboukir Bay presented a scene of horror and triumph which no words can fully express.
The battle raged with terrible fury. The enemy's ships pressed us on both sides, pouring in a continual fire of grape and round shot. Admiral Bruce, though already grievously wounded, refused to leave the deck and continued to direct the fight until he fell mortally struck. Our rigging was cut to pieces, the decks covered with dead and wounded, yet the fire never slackened. Flames now broke out in several places, the result of red-hot shot which the English poured into us. Every effort was made to extinguish the fire, but the confusion was too great, the slaughter too dreadful. The heat became unbearable, the smoke suffocating. The decks were strewn with burning wreckage. At length, the flames reached the powder magazine. A dreadful presentiment seized us. I threw myself into the sea and was carried away senseless by the shock of the explosion. When I recovered, the great L'Orient, the finest ship of France, existed no more. In her destruction perished nearly all her crew, amounting to more than 1,000 souls. The sea around was covered with fragments of wreck, charred timbers, and struggling men.
When we came into action at Aboukir, the noise was such that no man could hear his own voice. The crash of shot through our timbers, the fall of masts, and the cries of the wounded made a scene I can scarce describe. We were stationed at the guns, stripped to the waist, blackened with powder, and not a man thought of anything but firing as fast as he could load. The French poured into us from one side, and another of their ships gave it to us from the other. Our decks soon ran with blood, and the carpenters worked knee-deep in it, trying to stop the leaks below. About 10 o'clock, there was a sudden flash that made all men pause. The French Admiral's ship, the Great L'Orient, was all on fire. In a moment she blew up with a thunder that shook the very sea under us. For an instant all was still. I could see by the light of the flames the faces of my messmates, pale and staring, and the wrecks of ships all round us. Then the silence broke, and every gun roared out again as if the devil himself had given the word. By morning, what was left of the French had mostly struck their colours. I was too tired to cheer. We dropped on the deck where we stood, too spent to move. the smell of powder and burning filling our mouths and noses. I shall never forget that night as long as I live. The Audacious led in close under the bows of the French Conquérant and at once opened fire. Never shall I forget the shock of that first broadside. It seemed to tear the very deck from under our feet. The men gave 3 cheers and worked their guns like demons. The French replied with equal fury. Their shot flew thick through our rigging, cutting away sails and spars as though they had been paper. The heat was dreadful. The air filled with smoke and splinters. Many of our brave fellows were struck down beside me, yet the survivors never faltered. I saw young lads, not more than 16 years old, step into the places of the fallen and continue the fight without a word. By 8:30, the enemy's decks were piled with wreckage and bodies, their fire slackening as ours increased. On every side the thunder of cannon shook the bay. When the Lorient blew up, the blast seemed as if the heavens had opened. The flame shot to the sky like a volcano, and for a space of 2 or 3 minutes all firing ceased, so awful was the sight. Then, with renewed spirit, we pressed on until the French colours were struck. The victory was complete, but dearly purchased. Our decks bore frightful testimony to the struggle, the dead and wounded lying thick, the planks torn and shattered, and every face black with smoke and powder. Yet amidst the ruin there was triumph, for we knew that Nelson had given England one of her proudest nights.
At sunset, perceiving that the enemy's van was not close to the shoal, as supposed, I judged there was room to pass between them and the shore. Accordingly, I put the helm down and led inside. Followed by the Zealous, we anchored abreast the Guerrier, within half-pistol shot, and opened our fire with such effect that in a few minutes her masts went by the board. The Conquérant then engaged us on the other bow, while the Spartiate raked us ahead. Thus hemmed in, we fought both sides at once. The men behaved with the utmost steadiness, loading and firing as though on exercise, though the carnage around them was dreadful. The air was dark with smoke, the flashes of the guns lighting it red, and the roar incessant. Amidst this, the crash of falling masts and the cries of the wounded mingled in dreadful chorus. Yet our fire told fast. One by one the enemy's ships fell silent, or struck. When the Lorient blew up, the glare seemed to set the heavens in flames, and a shower of burning wreck fell all around us, some pieces still blazing as they struck the sea. Not a man in the fleet but paused at the sight, though scarce had the shock subsided before the guns thundered once more. Before dawn, victory was ours. Of 13 sail of the line, 9 were captured, 2 burnt, and only 2 escaped. The French fleet was annihilated,